Israel has not been in the forefront when it comes to women leading government roles. One strong and vocal politician, who is Israel's deputy foreign minister, has relentlessly been fighting and standing for the Jewish state to exist. Thank you so much, Sharon Haskel, for taking time with me at the Media Line.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure.
Israel appears to be more isolated than ever, still fighting multiple front wars, trying to push back Palestinian statehood, another flotilla, and as far as I can see, anti-Semitism is out of control. Where do you begin?
At home, with raising my 3 little babies on the values that I was raised on, with the strength and the bravery that I was given by my grandparents and the stories of my ancestors and my history. And that's when I begin, you know. Growing here in Israel, you're so sheltered in many times from anti-Semitism, but for me growing up and spending a lot of time also in France and other countries, those were my first experiences of racism towards Jews. And I truly believe that that really shaped how I view things, and it shaped my strength as well.
Toronto is your birthplace. Canada is having an alarming number of anti-Semitic acts and seems to be championing anti-Semitism. Canada has also recognized a Palestinian state, the attacks on schools and synagogues, and a woman who was recently stabbed in Ottawa. Are the Canadians able to understand what is required that they need to do to combat anti-Semitism?
I never thought in my life that something like that is possible in Canada. Seeing that hatred, racism, without any restraint, without any limitations, without red lines, without prosecution. People who pay the price for that violence and hatred. Because otherwise there's no deterioration for other people that will commit the same crimes against the Jews of Canada. And unfortunately, I don't see that. I don't see a strong response. And it's heartbreaking. It's devastating. President Trump was pretty much spot on when he spoke about the massive illegal immigration coming into Europe, a lot of immigration from the Middle East that's coming into Canada as well, that is importing with that Muslim Middle Eastern community a lot of the hatred, the demonization of Israelis and Jews. I mean, they openly teach that in schools in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Syria. And so when you come to a new liberal democracy from such a dark place like that, and you don't assimilate, and you're not being told, you know, that racism towards Jews is wrong, that it needs to be corrected, then it will spread like a plague. And that's what's happening right now in Canada.
You have stated, as you rightfully just said many a time, that it's not a territorial conflict, it's a religious, cultural conflict. Is such a conflict one that can be won?
Look, when we disengaged in 2005 from Gaza, with massive pressure by the international community, promised backing and security and whatever, those promises that didn't really mean anything, they were just empty words, that if we only give them the land, and we've evacuated all living Jews from Gaza, even the dead who were buried there, we dug them out and we buried them in the borders of Israel. So they had their autonomy, they had their state, they had a place to govern themselves, they could define themselves and have self-determination. What did they do with it? created a terror state like ISIS, elect democratically a terrorist organization, Hamas, that since the day they went into office invested all of their money, all of their contributions that were received for infrastructure and education and whatever it was, to create more terror and more violence and more hatred, building an underground city that is completely committed to terrorize the lives of Israelis. And so I think most of the Israeli public, and we see that in polls as well, has sobered up from that idea that for a religious, ideological dispute, that you will be able to resolve it with territory. You cannot. It's far more deeper than that.
In an interview with the Embassy of Nicosia, you said, the new one, referring to President al-Shara, and that the ISIS terrorists talk nice, have put on suits, but they didn't change. Well, I'd like to know if they are the same butchers they always were, as you said, or are we seeing a different person evolve? Can Israel have a détente with Syria?
Well, I think that the question needs to be addressed to the new Syrian government and to al-Jolani. We will not rely on words, but we will watch their actions, and we need to follow up closely their actions, meaning whether they are capable of protecting and defending their own minorities, whether it's the Christians who right now are being butchered, the Alawites who were massacred, the Druze who are in a massive humanitarian crisis after a terrible massacre that evented there, whether it's the Kurdish people, where they allow the Turks to come in and fight them on their borders. And that's the real question. Are they capable of defending their minorities? Because otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. It's the same of the old, instability, terrorism, violence, and death.
Despite the doom and gloom, the Embassy of Fiji did open its headquarters in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And you were there.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about that feeling during war?
Wow, it was incredible. We have talked and worked on that together with our friends in Fiji for many years. Fiji is a great ally and a true friend of the State of Israel. Fighting together in the international arena as well. During these times, these are historic times where we are being tested. And their moral clarity is absolutely remarkable. Their bravery standing against such huge pressure is absolutely unbelievable, and we truly thank them. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to head there also for a delegation to Fiji to see what we can do in order to build more bridges and to see how we can cooperate better. I really look forward to that. There's a great friendship that's building up right now. Jerusalem has been, for thousands of years, the undivided capital of the people of Israel, of the Jews. It's been our cultural capital, historic capital, religious capital, spiritual capital, and our political capital as well. And during times where there's so much lies that are being spread, in some cases I heard, radical extremists trying to question our roots here, our history, and whether the Jews actually originated from here. And you have to ignore all archaeological, historical facts, science, everything, to say something like that. And during this time, reaffirming this simple truth, but this is extremely touching, and I cannot explain to you how much strength it gives Israelis to see that.
All eyes have been on the Abraham Accords. It's throughout the war as well. In particular, the UAE, who never stopped flying to Israel. On the other hand, the UAE is right now at a very difficult time where they see many of the Arab countries following each other to declare statehood for the Palestinian people, and they're claiming they are seeking a two-state solution. Are these narratives problematic in terms of sustaining the strength of the Abraham Accords?
So we always knew the Abraham Accords will be tested not during quiet times, but during challenging times. We knew there's going to be tension, that there's going to be another round of war, unfortunately, because that's a reality here against those radical Islamists. And we knew that the Abraham Accords' real test would be during these times. And the fact that they stood strong, that they continued the economical collaborations and even expanded that, is a testament for the strength of those agreements. We are facing some challenges, especially during a time of war. But we also know of other countries who do want and are looking into entering the Abraham Accords as well. I think that once we defeat Hamas and we have returned our hostages back home, there'll be a few more parties that are going to come and join those important accord that brings stability and peace to our region.
His Highness, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, believes that no peace will exist in the Middle East without a Palestinian state. They say it clearly even on their website. And I know that you're believing that the UAE might turn around and that they might change their tone on this issue. But if he keeps espousing this publicly, how is that going to change? When Prime Minister Netanyahu has clearly said no Palestinian state now.
Look, we signed the Abraham Accords knowing we disagree on certain issues, specifically in regards to the Palestinians. I think most people know it was signed because of that. And so, with some of those challenges, we knew from the start that fact. And look, as I told you before as well, we cannot compromise on the safety and the security of the future of our children, of my 3 little daughters and the children here in Israel. And I think that some of these Arab countries, some of our friends and some of the countries who are not our friends, truly need to make a tough decision whether they will tie the future of their children with the decisions that the corrupt and the extremist Palestinian leadership is making. Because if they want to tie that to the leadership, which is Hamas in Gaza, the corrupt Palestinian Authority that's paying terrorists a salary, the more Jews they kill, the more the money they will receive as a compensation. Is that the future they want for their children as well? That promotion of violence and hatred and racism? This is also a decision that they will need to make.
Indonesia stood up for Israel, a huge country with many Muslim population. They don't have formal relations with the Jewish state. Is that something that surprised you?
I think that there's been a conversation about it for a very long time. I think that the Indonesian people are peaceful people who love peace and stability, who are looking on how to create a better future for their children. And I think that many countries in that sense understand that Israel is part of the future. with its incredible technology and, startups and businesses that can continue and develop the world, safety, security. It's a gift to the world, not a threat. And I think that more and more people are opening their minds and their eyes to that revelation.
Charlie Kirk was shot, a cold-blooded murder. It was a huge, massive funeral and memorial. And then, of course, there were those coming out and literally espousing words which were libelous. You yourself said this on a social tweet. Do you feel that the Jewish people were in any way involved in Charlie Kirk's murder?
Absolutely not. Charlie Kirk was loved by the Jewish people. Seeing him standing so strong, so bravely, against so much pressure, and defend the Jewish state and defend the Jewish people, that gives us strength and gave us only love to Charlie Kirk. Many people around the world who are supporting Israel, who are defending Israel, are being threatened every single day. Their lives, their families are being threatened with violence, with death. You ask any person around the world who's a fierce defender of Israel, like Charlie Kirk was, if he received death threats, he'll show you up hundreds of them throughout their feed. And unfortunately, we live through times where people are trying to restrict your freedom of expression, your freedom of speech, and your freedom to think. And I think that Charlie Kirk was so unique in that way. So, and I say it with such a heavy heart, irreplaceable.
Speaking about facts, October 7th, another anniversary, shocking, and people are losing that sense of the shock. And when you look at October 7th today, what do you remember and what do you want people to remember?
I want them to remember those sights and those horrendous images and cries and blood, so that it sets a warning for them to wake up, so that something like that will never happen in their own home. This is the true meaning of radical Islam. This is the true meaning of jihad. And unfortunately, it's spreading all around the world. And I really pray to God that we will be able to defeat it here in Israel and that no one else will have to face or challenge it.
Deputy Foreign Minister, one of the only, a woman in position in the Israeli government. There are very few. Why?
Look, I think that these are developing times. And in some governments there's been more women and in some governments less. But Israel is a society that's striving for the integration and the welcoming of women constantly. We've had challenges as well, obviously. Look, I served as a combat soldier in the army. Politics is a very tough position as well. I think that many women in Israel are a bit afraid of heading into positions like that. And in many cases, it is very difficult for them, where they feel they need to sacrifice sometimes, the dream and the life.
You have children under the age of 5, 3.
Yeah.
And most people would wonder, how do you fit this all in?
As a parliament member, I had 3 under 2. And it was very difficult. Still very difficult. I won't lie about it. It's very tough. It's very extreme. But I do that for their future. Not just to make and shape their future better, but also to show them that women are very important in governmental position in making those choices about the future of the country and the people.
Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskel, thank you for this time, for sharing a little bit of of your personal life, and also for sharing the very deep things that trouble you during this time of war.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure.